Many of us played through one of the 3 beta weekends and are still deciding which class to play, let alone which build. In this video today, I'll be continuing my series of theory crafting some early leveling builds for Diablo 4's launch. And today's class is our Bloody Golem Necromancer build. Now, as just a quick disclaimer, these are of course theory crafted builds and will more than likely change once any balancing changes have been made on launch or shortly after. I'll first give you an overview of the build, then a per level breakdown of the skill choices, then close the video out talking about aspects and gear options. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things here is by front loading the info in my videos so you can decide if this is the video for you. And since this is a per level guide on which abilities to take, you can find the entire build linked in the description and pinned comment, as well as a Google Doc that gives you a per level breakout of which abilities. Unfortunately, the site that we're using doesn't have a per level breakdown, but you can roughly kind of follow whatever path makes sense for you. You can quickly navigate to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. Lastly, please don't forget to follow me on Twitch, where I will be streaming Diablo 4 as well as playing plenty of other games. Well, let's get started here on my Necromancer Leveling build for Diablo 4. So here's that aforementioned Google Doc where I've got everything broken out for you. You can go ahead and check out there in the pinned comment and description. You can click this as well to also bring you over to this page where we have our entire build. So this build is going to roughly rely on using, not roughly, it's going to rely on using blood. Blood is the big focus here, and you're going to be using Hemorrhage as your basic ability, followed by Blood Lance as your core ability. That is the real big kind of winner of this build here. And as this progresses down, you'll be using Decrepify quite a bit, and you'll be using Corpse Explosion for a lot of your AoE damage. Now, at this point in the build, I'm showing you the optimized end of the build, wherein we're using Blood Mist, and Blood Mist will replace Corpse Explosion on your bar once you get a unique that basically makes it so Blood Mist activates Corpse Explosion for you. So you can kind of ignore the presence of Blood Mist right now. I'm not really talking about that. But as we progress down, we're going to be using Blood Wave to get a lot of really good benefits from a lot of the passives that we'll be pulling. And then we'll be using Rathma's Vigor for our capstone ability. Now for our minions, we're sacking all of our minions. We're sacrificing our minions and using just the Golem. And we're going to be really getting a very tanky Golem because we're using the Blood Golem. Now the Blood Golem, if you don't know, we'll go here. And the Blood Golem's ability is drains life from nearby enemies to heal and bolster itself. Now, if you've played the first beta, you know you get the Bone Golem at 25. The Blood Golem comes at 28. So you'll be using the Skeletal Warriors and Mages just up to that point, and however combination you want, you can just kind of have fun with that. But once we get into the upgrade here, while healthier, Blood Golem gains 25% DR and also 50% increased damage. So the Golem is going to be a juggernaut. You're going to rely on Golem Mastery to increase both his damage and his health. He's already going to be draining health. You're going to use this to make sure he can never get auto-gibbed when you fight really hard battles. You're going to get this to help out increase his damage when you're close to them, and you're in blood, so you're going to be close to things a lot of the time anyway. So you also get this ability here, Transfusion, which makes it so that it heals your minion whenever you pick up a Blood Orb, and you're going to have Blood Orbs in spades. So you are going to be doing a good amount of damage with your Corpse Explosions and having a lot of fun with your Blood Lances, which can really get crazy in the latter game with aspects. But your Golem is going to be a juggernaut. It is going to lead the way for you. I don't think it'll be the lion's share of your damage, but I definitely think it's going to be the thing that you don't have to worry about survivability because you're playing blood. And then when you have your Golem kind of stepping up to bat with you, that guy's going to take all the damage for you. So it's really going to be, I think, a very durable, fun build. And I do want to make a disclaimer here. This is not the most optimal leveling build. There are people that are going to be going hard in the paint on a Summoning Zoo Necro, which is what I was originally going to do, but I figured this might be something a little bit different. And arguably the best Necromancer build and the best leveling build in the game right now from theory crafting and whatnot is the Bone build, using Bone Spear and relying heavily on Bone Spirit. So I just want to deliver to you guys an alternative to a possibly very strong build without relying on the typical kind of bone builds that a lot of people have been going with. So This is your overview of the build. Let's go now into the per level breakdown. So here we are at level 1, and again, we do have the breakout in the spreadsheet if you want to go through that instead, but here's how we're going to be doing this. So we'll go into Hemorrhage for our first ability into Enhanced Hemorrhage. Now, let's just kind of quickly look at the tooltip for Hemorrhage. Burst an enemy's blood, dealing 25% damage. Hemorrhage has a 20% chance to form a blood orb. So you're really going to get some survivability from Hemorrhage, and you're going to struggle in the beginning with survivability. That's true of all classes. It's true of all Diablo. So if you're jumping into this ARPG going, why am I not overpowered like I can be in Path of Exile or Last Epoch at the very beginning? It's just a Diablo thing. And then once we go into level 3, or I guess level 4 for that matter, we're going to pick up Bloodlance all the way into Enhanced Bloodlance. And then finally, we're going to go into Paranormal Bloodlance. So while at least 2 enemies or a boss are affected by Bloodlance, you gain 15% attack speed, and Bloodlance's essence cost is reduced by 3. Really, the bonus here is attack speed. This build relies on attack speed and overpower. And overpower in and of itself is a pretty convoluted mechanic, which I'll do a whole video on. If you want, you can click the stats here. Overpower, chance, and damage, they both have a good little breakout of how those both work. Riker also did a really amazing video where he pretty much explains every single mechanic in the game. So if there's any mechanic you're running into not understanding, Riker has a good ultimate guide for you. But Paranormal Bloodlance is what we're going to be using because, again, it gives us that attack speed, and it's a great way to just kind of get some early damage out onto the battlefield. So now we're at level 6. And we're pushing now into level 7. We're going to go back up and pick up Acolyte's Hemorrhage. Hemorrhage gains an additional 20% attack speed while healthy. So again, relying on that attack speed. We'll pivot here into Initiate's Hemorrhage and in the much later portions of the build, but this is where we're going to hang out for now. And once we do that, we've unlocked the next tier, and we're going to pick up Corpse Explosion and then Enhanced Corpse Explosion, and we stop there because the latter two changes the nature of Corpse Explosion, and we don't want to do that. We want Corpse Explosion just to be its vanilla variation. Enhanced here gives us an increased radius on it, which is actually quite good, right? That's quite fine. And once we do that too, we're going to pick up Grim Harvest. Consuming a corpse generates essence. So we're going to put 3 full points into this. So that at level 12, this is what your skill tree is going to roughly look like. And you probably definitely have essence issues at this point in the game. Around, I don't know, 12 to about 20, you're really going to struggle with essence, and all of your core abilities and anything else outside of what's just not your basics is really going to feel cumbersome because you're like, man, I can't ever use it. But this is really going to help you out because when you blow up a corpse, you're going to get essence. You're going to generate 9, so you'll actually you'll be able to be a little bit more mobile, as it were. This opens up our next tier, and we're going to go grab Decrepify. As good old Mr. Llama SC would say, this is really just a 1-point wonder. Most of the curses in D4, well, the 2 curses you get, right, did retain their 1-point wonder kind of attributes. You can really pump a lot of points into these, but it's not necessarily worth it because you can just get plenty of utility just from having the 1 point into them. It's more their passives that really help you out more than anything. So we grabbed Decrepify, and that leaves us with 4 points before we jump down into the next category. So let's go back up here, and we're going to put 2 points here into Bloodlance. Now, one thing to remember, now I've said this with our Barbarian build, but this is true of all builds. Your core abilities, the first 2 points you invest in them, you get the most damage returned. The 2 points after, it is a diminishing returns, because you're getting less of an increased percentage on the actual damage coming out. It's hard to 100% explain in this little section right here, because I'll do a whole video on it. But even though this says we're going from 68 to 74 to 81 to 88, it's going up 10% every time, right? It's taking that 68, taking 10% of it, 6.8, up to 7.4, up to 8.1, up to 8, to another 8 right there. So it's a diminishing return beyond a certain point, and you're better off just putting these first 2 in and then coming back and grabbing the latter 2 at a later point in your build. Most people, if you're coming from Diablo 2, you're used to grabbing a skill that is going to be synergistic with the rest of your build and dumping all of your points into it to move on to the next thing. That is not necessarily the case here with this game that we're playing, Diablo 4. And then we're also going to pick up Unliving Energy. This is going to give us some maximum essence increase, and it's going to open us up to Imperfectly Balanced. Now, we're about to unlock our next tier, and we're not really going to pull abilities from that tier. So we're actually going to use the next 3 levels. We're at level 16. We're going to go 17, 18, 19 into imperfectly balanced. So now our core skills cost more essence, but they do 15% increased damage, which is quite nice, right? So we've done that. We've been perfectly balanced, and now we are ready to jump into this tier. But again, we're not really going to be pulling anything from it just yet. And I think what we're going to do instead is put 2 points here into Corpse Explosion, bringing it up to 60% damage to surrounding enemies. And we're really going to just kind of hold off on both Corpse Explosion and Bloodlines from this point forward, because now we're going to start buffing up some of our blood abilities. Because now that we have a bar that should look something like this, here you go. Let's go ahead and do this really quick. Your bar should be around something like this. Here, you'll have a summon skeleton because you're still using your skeletons at this point, and I'll talk about that more in just a second. Corpse Explosion, there we go, and Decrepify. So that's what your bar should look like, right? That's the abilities you actually have active. We have one more slot, and that next slot is going to be our Blood Wave of the Bloody Tidal Wave, whatever the hell it's called. So we're going to pick up some passives to kind of preempt that and make it a little bit stronger. Gruesome Mending, while below 50%, you receive 10% more healing from all sources. Coalesce Blood. Really, the whole point of these two is just to unlock this, Tides of Blood. Your blood skills deal 5% increased overpower damage. This bonus is doubled while you are healthy, which you are going to be quite a bit. And this starts our kind of like tirade into the overpower and trying to really kind of capitalize on that as much as possible. But that then unlocks our ultimate abilities, in which case we're going to pick up Blood Wave. Conjure a tidal wave of blood that deals 90% damage and knocks back enemies. Into now it slows those enemies. And now it leaves behind 3 blood orbs, helping you to stay healthy. So we have done quite a little bit there. And let's take a look at what our level is. We are 27. So we've unlocked our Bone Golem at 25, right? And now we win one more level, we get to 28 and we get the Blood Golem. So let's go ahead and jump over to the companions section to talk about that. So up to this point, you can have as much fun as you want with skeletal warriors and skeletal mages in whatever combination. It's entirely up to you. Just don't choose the passives for them. Have fun with it. If it's your first time playing Necromancer, try them out. You might even decide that you want to just go with a build focusing on them rather than actually doing the golem. But what I'd recommend here is probably something like this. The Reapers that have a 15% chance to carve the flesh off enemies, forming a corpse for you. That way you just have more corpses on the battlefield. And for skeletal mages, I would go right here, upgrade level 1. Each time your cold mages damage enemies with their primary attack, you gain 2 essence. So again, just kind of topping off your essence generation here. But now you've hit 28, you've unlocked a Blood Daddy. What do? So for one, we're going to choose Blood Golem Upgrade 2. This is the one that, again, makes they get a nice bit of DR while they are healthy, and they get increased damage. And we're going to sacrifice both our Skeletal Warriors and our Mages. So we're going to do Skirmishers for the sacrifice here. Your crit chance is increased by 5%, but you can no longer raise Skeletal Warriors, of course. And for Skeletal Mages, we're going to sacrifice our bone skeletal mages. So your overpower damage is increased by 40%, but you can no longer raise skeletal mages. That's ain't no thing, because remember, we're going to be doing plenty of overpower. Jumping back into our skill tree, we are now, again, we're going from 27 into 28, so we're going to be using Golem Mastery because we've just gotten our Golem online. Let's buff this bad boy. And we've already sacrificed our skeletons, so let's take advantage of that. So coming over here to standalone, increase damage reduction by 6%, reduced by 2% for each active minion. Well, we only have one active minion. So that's a 4% DR for us, which is quite nice. And at this point in the game, you know, we're coming into this, we're level 31 at this point. Let me make sure. Yeah, we're 31. So we're still in World Tier 1. You want to make sure you're playing through the game on World Tier 1. Don't do World Tier 2 unless you want a particularly better challenge or something like that, because you do get 20% more experience, but the game is substantially slower and harder to push through. You might as well do World Tier 1, complete the campaign, and then it's completed for all of your characters after that. When you jump into Nightmare, that's when things are going to get wild. You're going to pop into World Tier, I think it's like 3 or 4 for Nightmare, whatever it is. But and that's where DR is really going to come into play. Here's the big thing that you want to get. Almost every single build jumps on this if they can. So Memento Mori, sacrificing both skeletal warriors and skeletal mages increases their sacrifice bonus by 20%. So we're 31. Now 32 is going to be this, 33 is going to be this, and 34 is going to be this. So we're going to have 60% bonus on the already substantial bonuses that we get from sacrificing our warriors and mages. You're going to have a super high crit chance, and your overpower is going to be an absolute wrecking ball. And I'm going to show you how we're going to really play with that in a little bit here. So now we've done that, we have our capstone unlocked at 35. Let's get Rathma's Vigor. Increase your max health by 10%. After being healthy for 15 seconds, your next blood skill overpowers. So that is exactly how you're going to basically cater overpower to be on demand. You've got this going, you've got 15 seconds, boom, you're in overpower mode, you go ahead and use a blood wave, and you are just going to rip things apart. And that is really how you're going to get such a good wombo combo here, because remember now, because of Memento Mori, you're getting a 60% increase on this. Your overpower is increased by 40%, so it's 60% increase on that. So that's 40 or 64% increased overpower damage, I think. It was 40 and 60%. Could be wrong. Who knows? I'm not smart. But either way, you're going to be doing quite a bit of damage with your overpower, and now your blood tidal wave is going to be just ripping things apart. So we've done this. We're at our capstone. We're at 35. Now let's start going back and filling things out. We're going to put points back here into Coalesce Blood. So while healthy, your blood skills deal 18% increased damage. You see how this plays together? Because remember, Rathma, like remix, Rathma's Vigor only triggers when you are healthy. So Blood Wave is a blood ability. Now it's going to be 18% increased damage on top of the chance that it's all, or on top of the fact that it's going to guaranteed overpower. So you're really going to be popping off here. Tides of Blood. Your blood skills deal 15% increased overpower damage. You see you see where we're going with this? It's gonna be fun. I'm stoked on it. So Tides of Blood is good now. We should be at level 39. We're gonna go finish off Blood Lance because we've just buffed up all these passives into all these blood abilities. Let's take as much advantage of that as we can. And we're doing our max damage now with Blood Lance. So let's pepper in some other passives. So we're at level 41 now. We're starting to get to a point where we're going to get near Nightmare. So Decrepify, which is nice because it slows things down and reduces the damage they deal. Let's go ahead and get some additional utility out of that. We're going to put our next 3 points into Amplified Damage, which brings us to level 44. And then we're going to go 2 points here into Corpse Explosion, which is going to bring us to 46. Then now into 47, we're going to help out our Golem just a little bit more. We're going to get Inspiring Leader. So after you've been healthy for at least 4 seconds, you and your minion gain 4% attack speed. Kind of going into more of that attack speed there. And after that, you're going to get Death's Defense. I like this ability as just a 1 point. You can definitely jump more into this if you really want to go this route. But what this does is it prevents your minion from ever getting one hit gibbed. So 75%, your minion cannot lose more than 75% of their max life from a single damage instant. So it just really keeps them on the battlefield a little bit longer. And I like that a lot more. And then I'm also going to come back into Standalone. Because at this point, you're now level 50. Let me make sure. Yeah, we're now level 50. So you're probably going to be pushing into Nightmare. And the 18% DR is really going to help you out substantially. Yes, you have tons of healing sources. Yes, you have a super tanky golem, but you might as well get the ability to really make sure that you personally don't lose tons of health in any kind of instance if you can mitigate it as much as possible. So Standalone is now capped out. We're level 50. Let's help out our golem a little bit more with Transfusion. 1, 2, 3 points into that, bringing us into what is our renown points, right? So you get up to level 50, and then you've got your 10 renown points that you get from the zones. I think it's 2 skill points per zone. So those points are what we're kind of allocating right now. As you'd get them, you just kind of go ahead and invest them, however really you want to go about it. So don't really worry about exactly when things get invested because you're pretty much just following a linear line anyway. So Transfusion here, Blood Orbs heal your minions for 45% of the amount, which is quite lovely. And let's jump back here into Hellbent Commander. So your minions deal 10% increased damage while you're close to them. We're going to be quite close anyway. So this jumps us up to 30% because we're putting 3 points into it. And we're going to finish off the entire build by putting points into Death's Embrace. because we're already, like I said, we're close. Might as well do this. Close enemies take 6% more damage from you and deal 9% less damage to you. So it's quite nice. Might as well get the advantage of it if you're going to be doing it, because those last 3 points are flex points. They're here as a holdover for our next discussion, which is about gear and aspect, which is going to determine when and where these 3 points go. So this is your build as it stands at the point in which you get to your max level completely naked, right? You're not going to be looking at any kind of aspect stuff just yet. That's in the next section here. But here you go. It's all set out for you in that Google Doc in the description. But let's move now into a conversation about some aspects. Pivoting into our conversation now about aspects and gems, there are 2 different types of aspects. You've got your codex aspect, which you get from completing dungeons, and then your drop aspect, which you get from legendaries, uniques, and you have to rip it off of them, or it's just on that item as it is. So there's only one of those, the drop aspects, and we'll talk about that at the last portion here because it's going to cater our skills a little bit differently. But the 2 first aspects you really want to focus on are Blood Seekers. And this one you're going to be able to get from Mercy's Reach and Fractured Peaks. That's Act 1, very easy to get. But Blood Lance, let me go over here. Blood Lance deals 15 to 25% increased damage to its primary target per lanced enemy. It's quite good. It's very nice. Just get it right out the gate. And then we also have the eluding aspect. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this on my boots. I like this personally as a defensive boot aspect. I think it's quite good. Becoming injured while crowd controlled grants you unstoppable for 4 seconds. This effect has a 40 to 20 second cooldown. I like it quite a bit. You get it in the Caldera Gate of Fractured Peaks. It's very early on. Very nice choice. I think it's probably one of the better ones. Another big one that a lot of people have been going here is Ghost Walker's aspect, but I think that this requires you personally as the player to be a little bit more active in your ability to get out of bad situations. Because you are unstoppable for 4 seconds, increases your movement speed, and you can freely move through enemies. I just like that the other one's a little bit more of a kind of like a passive get out of jail free card. That's a personal opinion of mine. You can go with either one really in those cases. Our next one here is going to be in Skullskin, and it is the Expectant, I believe. Aspect of the Expectant. Attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill cast by 5 to 10%, up to 30%. You're going to get this in the Underroot in Skullskin. That's Act 2. You don't have to worry until quite a little bit. And then we get the Edge Masters here. Edgemaster's aspect is in Skullsglen as well. Skills deal up to 10 to 20% increased damage based on your available primary resource when you cast, receiving the max benefit while you have full primary resource. Now, if you remember my Barbarian build, we had a ton of Fury generation. We do have lots of ways to get Essence. So if you have the Essence, you're going to get as much benefit from this as you possibly can, which is quite nice. And then we also have Potent Blood. I don't think I can put it right here. Potent Blood is a weapon one, I believe. Potent Blood. Nope, I've lied again. I think it's Ring. Potent Blood. There we go. Aspect of Potent Blood. So while at full life, Blood Orbs grant 10 to 20 essence. So this is in the Dry Steps, which is Act 3. So it's going to take you a little time to get this one online, but it will help kind of lean into Edgemaster's aspect, as well as giving you the ability to really help yourself when it comes to the generation of as much essence as possible. So now talking about I said there's actually 2 drop aspects you need to kind of think about. Your weapon you should be swapping off every 5 levels. You want to make sure you're optimizing your weapon as best as possible. That's the one thing, because it's going to maximize your damage and it pushes you through the game as fast as possible. So I'm going to take the aspect of the Expectant and I'm going to put it onto my ring. And I'm going to swap this one with Explosive Mist. Now this is a drop aspect, meaning of course it's only from a drop. But what I want you to see here is that it says Amulet plus 50%, meaning that the effect of it will be give you an 100, or it will be a total of 150%, because all these have a 100%. But if it says this parenthetical notation of 50%, some of them say two-handed sword, 100%, whatever it is. That means you're getting a bonus to use it. So aspect of Explosive Mist we're putting on our amulet. So now Blood Mist triggers corpse explosion on surrounding corpses. When Blood Mist detonates a corpse, its cooldown is reduced by 0.2 to 0.5 seconds. So that's huge. Now you don't have to have Blood Mist in your you don't have to use Corpse Explosion. So those 3 points we put into Death's Embrace, we take them out and we go boom, boom, boom. And we put them right on into, which one is it? Yeah, this one, Dreadful Blood Mist. So this is awesome because you remove Corpse Explosion from your bar, because this ability, Blood Mist, will trigger your skill Corpse Explosion, not just a random Corpse Explosion. It's a rank 5 or whatever rank you have a Corpse Explosion. It triggers it and it blows it up. You might get this at level 1. You might get this at level 50. You're more than likely to get it at 50 plus. But still, that's how your bar would now look here, because you've swapped out and put on Blood Mist, which is now blowing up the corpses for you. Now, the other one you want to focus on, and the reason I'm waiting the most to talk about this is, like I said, you want to swap your weapon every 5 levels as much as you can. Just maximize your damage. But Aspect of Hungry Blood here, when Blood Lance hits an enemy that is already lanced, it has a 10 to 20% chance to fire a Blood Lance at a nearby enemy. So it's basically exploding Blood Lances that go everywhere. It's just another drop one. It's going to be hard to get, but it's going to be strong. I strongly recommend it. Now for your gems, you're going to want to put rubies here because they're going to increase that overpower damage, right? We're really been hinging on that overpower damage. Our armor, we're going to go rubies for more health. Now, there's still the argument of diamonds over skulls. Skulls increase your armor. Diamonds give you a flat 8% all res. Take a look at stats. We're going to take a look at armor. Non-physical damage taken is partially reduced according to your armor contribution. The inherent percentage that armor contributes to your base damage reduction against non-physical attacks in PvP. The remaining damage reduction is determined by your appropriate elemental resistance. It is not a flat 50%. You don't take a look at your armor value of 60 and get 30 all res. This ability, this is like a really weird stat, and it's not a flat 1-to-1. It's like degrading values. So we don't really know 100% how armor works itself out as far as how it contributes to your non-physical damage. But needless to say, it's much different than it's been in the previous 2 Diablos. I would err on the side of caution for now because I just don't know how it works and just say 8% all res. But that is going to be your gear and your skills and your gems and your aspect and your everything, right? Because we have no idea what real kind of gear we're going to be looking at for your leveling build of the Bloody Golem Necro. Now, again, like I said, there's plenty of other builds out there that are probably going to be a little bit more optimized when it comes to maybe Bone or like a Zoo, Summon Necro, but I think this is an alternative one that is going to be very fun, and it's going to be really enjoyable to have just this beastly golem stomping through the battlefield as you have explosive blood lances that are ripping through everything and blood tidal waves that are going to be coupled with your overpower. But go ahead and let me know in the comment section below what you're thinking about this build or any other build you'd like to see from me when it comes to the Necromancer. I will be kind of changing these and redoing these and all that kind of stuff once I actually jump into the game on the 1st. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.